In a world where fishermen withhold information like prisoners in a commie camp, there are two hero dads bringing you tips and tricks directly from the pros to help you land bigger bass. This is the Bass Fishing Dads Podcast. Here are your hosts, Gino and Rich. Welcome everyone to the fourth episode of the Bass Fishing Dads Podcast. What's a good word, Gino?
What's going on, Rich?
Another day in paradise, buddy.
So, Rich, what are we going to talk about today?
Why don't we talk about this trip that we just took over to Okeechobee?
Oh, man. That trip couldn't have been long enough. We went out to Roland Martin Marina. Yep. And we stayed for the night. We left Friday at the crack of dawn.
Yeah. Why did you mean?
Saturday at the crack of dawn.
Yes.
It was.
Yeah, we woke up earlier.
So we live about an hour and 40 minutes from the marina. I haven't been out to Lake Okeechobee since I was a kid. I don't think you've ever been out there, have you?
No, this is my first trip there.
Yeah, so, that's the motherland of bass fishing, and we were looking forward to this trip. We had it planned for a while. We spoke to a guide, and I figured, let's go out there and fish with a guide, and they can put us on some spots and catch some fish, and that was the plan.
That was the plan. And when we went out there, we went out with a guide, and it's totally different. Let's start by that. It's a totally different monster than what it is that we're fishing here.
Wait. Let's talk about monster. First of all, we fished from a 14-foot tracker boat. What kind of boat were we on?
Yeah.
The minute I saw him back in that nitro in the water, it was a 22-foot nitro.
It had a seat on it. That was nice.
Man, I think that seat had air conditioning. It was so badass.
That was a nice boat.
I don't even think there was a speckle of dust on that boat.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
But anyway, getting in that boat, it was amazing. I was just, it was like I got out of the car and I saw the boat and it was almost like,
this is what fishing is.
Right there, just getting on that boat, I think it was worth the trip with the guide.
Yeah, it definitely was. We were able to get out to some real distances outside that we would have never gotten to in the John boat. All right, not that we would have never gotten out. It would have taken us 3 days to get to the same spot, but... Yeah.
Then we got to the spot in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, that thing was flying.
Yeah, but no, it was pretty amazing. What I recall, Lake Okeechobee was totally different from what I saw when I got there. First of all, I want to talk about something that was caught my attention. And getting out there in the canals, there was algae everywhere. Did you notice that?
Yep. Yeah, it was a real algae problem out there.
Well, I didn't realize how big of a problem it was until I saw the news, and all up the coast of Florida, there's algae just filling the waters in the waterways, and people's boats are just covered with algae.
Yeah, it's a real problem. So it's stuff that happens. It originates from farmland, farm waste, all kinds of pesticides that get into the water. That's what creates that.
So it's interesting on the outside of the canals and the waterways to get into the lake. It's really thick in there, but inside the lake, I didn't see too much of it.
No. Once we're it was right in the main channel, probably closer to the entrance, closer to the city, is really where it was. So that's just prime example of where it's coming from.
Yeah, that makes sense. But so the first spot that we stopped at, it was like a little grassland. So, it was interesting to see. And I'll be honest with you, when he first started going over those grassland, I got a little nervous. I said, man, this guy's about to run aground and
we're all going to go flying. We're going to die and get eaten by gators.
So, yeah, so I had a similar experience happen to me when I was in Flamingo one time here in the Everglades. And I did run aground. It was a similar situation. I wasn't familiar with the area, and it was shallow as heck. And I was in a bass fishing tracker boat at the time with a buddy of mine, and we ran aground. So I had flashbacks. It was not a fun experience.
No, I'm sure not.
It was low tide, and the boat got stuck out there, and we had to walk around in almost waist-deep mud to push the boat out.
Well, listen, I'm sure that wouldn't have happened with his boat. His boat had what looked like the TV screen that I have in my living room for a GPS and Wayfinder.
Yeah, so there was a lot of cool amenities on that boat, and so it was a great time. The guide had great equipment, great setup. So, the first spot we got to, as I was mentioning, it was there was this grass, probably I want to say 3-4 feet out of the water. Yeah. And it was real thick. We started fishing that area there, and weedless swim bait. Was very effective because you kind of drop them in those little areas, and we didn't get any bites there, but I did like the presentation of the bait and the area that we were fishing. You know, something that I'm not used to fishing.
Right, it's totally different from when we fish. We fish, banks from the boat. We're tossing into heavy lily pads and grass that are on a bank line. And here it was all grass. You had to fish completely differently to try and land anything there.
You know, but the thing about our fishing is that we're fishing canals. You know, our Everglades national parks are filter out into canals, and that's kind of what we have mainly been doing out here is these canal fishing in the Everglades off Tamiami Trail.
Well, even like that, when we were out there, we didn't really start catching fish until we got into something that looked familiar to us. You know, when we got onto those weed lines along the trees, then that's when we started catching fish.
So yeah, we fished that little weed, the grassy area for a little while, and I thought for sure that was going to be a great spot. I mean, every cast that I threw out there, I anticipated that I was going to pull a monster out of there because everyone I've known that's fished Lake Okeechobee not only has pulled out these huge fish, but I mean, I see these trophy mounts on the wall of these fish, and they're huge, 10-pound plus, size fish, and I was thinking, man, every cast that I threw out, I was going to catch something huge.
Yeah, I was excited. I thought, Gino's getting me up at 5 a.m. to go fishing. Then I need to catch something big.
Well, that's correction. You got up at 3:30. Actually, our drive started pretty early.
That's true. That Saturday I did get up at 3:30, but the following day I got up at 5.
I don't know about you, but I don't sleep well the night before I'm going to fish. I mean, it's weird. Does that happen to you?
No, I sleep like a baby.
Yeah, I don't sleep like a baby. I start dreaming about fish taking my bait and hauling ass and laughing at me. And wake up in cold sweats. It's a horrible experience.
Fantastic.
So we fished that grassy area for a little bit, and next spot we ended up at we called it the wall, and basically it was a grass wall on the edge of the lake, a lot of cover in that area. And something interesting I didn't realize is that lake has a lot of vegetation just about anywhere you're at in that lake.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
So yeah, and that's we started fishing there, and I believe at that point we were still using some swim bait, but you were throwing Senkos.
Yeah, we switched to Senkos, and that's what started landing fish.
I think Senkos are guaranteed catcher. Right? If your other bait's not working, Senkos pretty much are the go-to.
I don't know if it's a time of the year thing, man.
It could be.
Before now, I didn't catch anything on Senko.
Well, it's interesting that the colors that they were using, June bug and the watermelon color, which was really good, seemed to be catching fish.
That purple one started catching a lot of fish too.
Yeah. That so first couple of casts, I remember we were there fishing, and man, I can tell you, it was like being a kid all over again. I was so excited to be there. I knew the fish were there because when we pulled up to that one spot, I mean, it was like they had scattered that little area. I mean, if I could guess, there was probably 10 bass that just stirred up the water and just took off. And then after that, as always, I caught the first fish.
That's true. I'm always waiting on you to catch one because I know that's when I'll start catching them. Yeah,
and that's how it went this time, right? I caught my first fish. It wasn't huge. It was about a 3-pounder, but it was a nice fish to start the day.
Yeah, they were nice. I mean, they were decent size, but there wasn't what I expected out there. I expected to catch gigantic fish. I don't know if it's just because it's the time of the year. I don't think it's because of summer. They're in the deeper part of the lake. Maybe that's the case going on, but. But based on what was on the wall and all the stories we've heard, I was expecting to catch a gigantic whale.
Man, but if you think about the quantity of fish that we caught while we were on that wall, I mean, it was pretty much nonstop. I mean, how many fish do you think we caught that day? Of course, I'm going to exaggerate the number.
90? 100?
I mean, it might have been like 120. No. No, realistically, I think it was about 30 fish, 35 fish we caught.
Yeah, probably around that time.
And they were decent size. I don't think there was anything smaller than maybe, a 2-pounder.
Well, we also went back in the afternoon.
Well, we'll get there. We fished that wall. We moved a little bit, further north. And, we're just fishing the banks, and it seemed to be that the Senko was the winner that day. We tried other things. We tried some top water. They just weren't biting the top water.
No, they weren't doing anything on top water. I know that you kept jumping on the... what is the nation one? The Whopper Plopper.
Whopper Plopper.
You were dying to get something on that and it wouldn't get a bite.
I just wanted to catch something on the Whopper Plopper. And as we get into this, I'm sure...
You feel like you need to catch it because it cost you $82.
No, I just like the presentation when you're in the water and it's like really quiet out there and all of a sudden you hear whop, 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 whop. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But didn't catch anything on the Whopper Plopper. Yeah, the Senkos were doing it.
when I got on the purple ones at first, I didn't catch anything. I switched to this watermelon color, and then towards the end of our trip, which was probably earlier in the afternoon, I went back to the purple, and then I started pulling up fish left and right.
But the thing I guess too is that it started to get hot really quick. You notice by about 9 o'clock, sun was beaming. It was overcast, so we had that in our favor. So I think the darker color Senkos were working. They were catching the fish. They were, we were getting the bite early on those, and I think the overcast definitely had something to do with it.
Yeah, it's for me. It's always time of the day. Like I said, call it the afternoon. I call it the witching hour. I feel like I need to get out of the water and just forget it, give up, and then go back in the afternoon or the morning because I'm not catching anything in the midday. Well,
I read that a lot, and I see people talk about that. It's not necessarily the witching hour, they say, but that's what we call it, right? It's that time frame from like 10 o'clock for us, and it's usually until like 2. Until like 2, yep.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, right. And you just one more cast, you think it's going to change.
No, it's just that's extra melanoma you're catching on the top of your palms.
Yeah, it's that extra burn that you're getting on your forehead. But yeah, at the end we decided to wrap it up, but we called it an early day, and I believe we wrapped it up by about 2 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Went in. It was a early morning. We took a nap.
You ate some lunch, some gator bites.
And we had some gator bites. That's the first time I ever had gator.
Me too. It was good, real good.
It's interesting. I see them in the water all the time, and the last thing I ever think about is eating them. I know a lot of people do.
Yeah, the gator tails, you see them all the time in restaurants and stuff, especially down the trail and in Miccosukee. You're kind of squeamish about it. You see them, and I don't really think so. But they really do. I know you hear this all the time, but they really do taste just like chicken.
Yeah, they do, definitely. It was good. I mean, the first time I ever had it, I'd definitely have it again.
I think they gave us chicken and sold us gator tail at a premium.
They could have given us some chicken, yeah. Went back to the room, took a nap, and we headed out in the afternoon. We waited till, I believe it was like 5 o'clock before we went out.
It was about 4. We went out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
So the guide had given us a couple spots, that towards the end of the day that we were fishing in. I mean, it was grass. It was like the grasslands pretty much. There was grass everywhere, and he took us to an edge, a wall edge where there was lily pads and some vegetation, or a lot of vegetation. And, we fished the afternoon there before 2 o'clock, and it was just dead. But it looked like a great spot. He did say when they're hitting, this is a great spot. We went back there in the evening.
Yeah, sure enough, they were hitting.
Yeah, they were hitting. It's amazing that, too, I want to point out that we're using the Navionics fishing app, which is pretty awesome. I mean, it's something that, if you don't have a fish finder or GPS and you won't want to spend money on fancy equipment, I mean, just for a makeshift quick GPS navigation device, that thing's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a sweet deal that you had there on your phone. Let's talk about this for a second. All right, just for full disclosure. The last episode, we talked about essential gear and safety and stuff. And this trip, which was immediately after we recorded that second episode, I went out there with none of that essential gear.
Well, here's the funny thing, man. We can talk about the things that you need and the things that you're supposed to have, but it's almost a guarantee that you're going to forget something.
Yeah, no, I forgot glasses. I forgot my foul weather gear, all my water stuff.
You lost your hat?
Yeah, the only thing I had with me was a hat, which I lost on that 600-mile-an-hour boat.
Well, let's talk about something else too. We were sitting out there fishing, and all of a sudden it looked like Hurricane Mojan was coming towards us.
That's exactly why I wanted to be, give it full disclosure and talk about how I left all my weather gear at home, because as soon as we get out on the water, it looked like freaking monsoon was coming up behind us and was going to devour us alive.
No, we got to paint the picture. So we're on this metal tracker John boat. We are a magnet to lightning bolts, and we're out there fishing. This massive storm was coming towards us, and you could hear the thunder. You could see the lightning. I mean, it looked bad.
It looked like a black wall coming up behind us.
Oh, my God. If my mother would have seen me out there, she would have started praying. So we're out there fishing, and the crazy thing is that I was fishing a topwater frog. I had just an explosive bite. It was a little over 5 pounds. Huge fish, of the day. I know there's a lot bigger fish out there, but it was a big fish for me. We don't typically catch a lot of those fish that size, and that was a nice fish, and I was excited. There wasn't a moment that I said, you know what, we better go in. From that moment on, the excitement and the thrill of that fish just coming out of the water and just seeing it attack that bait, it was like in slow motion in my mind.
Well, I think we thought about going in a couple times, but we, after those strikes, we're just like, no, we're going to wait till it gets a little closer, till the danger level gets a little higher.
Right, and we kept catching fish, and that was the first time I had ever caught a fish on a frog.
Yeah, we got wet, but yeah, we were catching fish and it was good.
Man, but we escaped the storm. I mean, that was a miracle. That storm passed by us. We had a great afternoon. We were catching fish, and it was scary for a moment there. I mean, it was. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Sketchy. It got real sketchy real quick. Luckily, I had the GoPro running, so that'll make it to the website real soon.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know you had footage.
Yeah, I had it.
And how does it look?
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't gone over it, but I pointed the camera at this disgusting gray wall that was chasing us down with the lightning and thunder.
Yeah, I took some pictures and I didn't send them to my wife, but she had no idea that I was out on the water.
Yeah, no, I did want to leave a message for whoever finds the camera after we died.
But look, man, when you're a diehard and you're out there catching fish, man, and it's raining, I mean, who cares? You're gonna get a little wet.
Yeah, I got real wet. This wasn't a little wet. I got soaking wet.
So look, man, this trip so far to date was for me one of the best trips we've had. And look, it's not like we've had hundreds of them, but it was a great trip.
Yeah, it was real awesome. Actually, day one was fantastic. Day two, we got up early. We got all our gear ready to go. We got up out on the water. We were out on the water probably about 6 o'clock in the morning, right when the sun was rising. Got out to the spot. We got out to some fishing, and then the sun kicked in. Horrifying.
This is one thing I'm learning about bass fishing, right, Rich? I mean, you go out there, it's great, one day. You go the next day, and it's just horrible. Like, you don't catch anything, and, you're not getting bites, and the bait that was, hot the day before is just dead the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think, the conditions were perfect. I mean, the sky was clear. The sun was beaming. I mean, the conditions just weren't good that day.
Oh, my God, man. Let me tell you that. Right before we decided to call it a day and go inside, the sun was burning down on my head. Not only did I want to give up fishing, I wanted to give up on life altogether at that moment.
Yeah, I looked back and I said to you, do you want to go in? And you said, yes, please.
Yes, let's go.
I mean, you were talking in slow motion. One of your eyes was almost shut, bloodshot red.
That's what heat stroke is.
Yeah,
that's what I was doing.
Yeah,
I was pouring algae water over myself to cool off.
Yeah, that's probably the reason why your left ear looks like it's falling off right now.
my skin is falling and melting off my face.
Yeah, man. Oh, geez. Well, look, it's funny. I don't know about you, man, but when you're fishing and it's hot and you're out there on the water and you had luck the day before, I mean, you try to push it and see if that next cast is going to be the one you're going to catch a great fish. And being out there on Lake Okeechobee, for me was just a great experience, man. And I was just hoping to catch a monster bass. And look, I'm not disappointed. We caught a lot of good fish the day before, catching 30 nice fish in nonstop action. That was great.
No, but let me tell you this trip was a prime example of why you can't, you walk into a Bass Pro and you see 4 billion different lures and 4 billion different colors, and you got to have them all because you have no clue and they're all going to work on a different day.
Yeah, man. And those gambler swim baits, what is it, the Easy?
Yeah, the Big Easy.
The Big Easy, those are great baits, man. When they look great. I mean, we bought a bunch the next day, and we didn't have any luck with them at all. But with that weedless hook and that presentation of that bait, it's interesting. I bought a bunch of those, and it's funny. The next day, we didn't get a single bite on them.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the weedless stuff, and I've never really been a believer until that trip because you needed it out there. You're basically fishing over every weed in the world, so it was really fantastic to have all these different weedless baits in there. Not jigs. Weedless jigs are not weedless. They're a lie.
They're a lie. Yeah. So tell me this: what was your big takeaway from this trip, and what do you think you learned? And is there something that you can share, maybe a technique or tip or something that you feel like has helped you become maybe a better fisherman?
So I think the biggest takeaway that I took from this trip and the thing that I learned the most was watching our guide. Every time that I feel a strike, I'll jump on it right away and try to set the hook. And what his recommendation was, slow it down. Let the fish take it in his mouth, let him go, and then set the hook. Give him a second to really get it in. And I realized that once they jump on my line at that point and I give them a second or two to just let it get in there and then set the hook, I was keeping a lot more fish than letting go.
Yeah, and I think that's been my big mistake that I made too. You feel that bite, you feel the fish on the line, and you get really excited and you set the hook, too early. I mean, how many times have I tried to set the hook like Hercules, and I whipped that bait across the boat, and you've seen it go by your eye.
Exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, and I think that was a big takeaway for me too.
Well, not just that. I think the other thing for me was that when I get them on and I finally hook them, those few times that I do hook them when I'm all excited,
I'll start cranking down on this rod like a lunatic. I'm like, yeah, I can't can I get him on boat? Same thing. He's like, listen, you got him already. You got him hooked in the mouth. Reel it in slow, man. Take it easy, slow, steady pace. He'll get in.
Right. Ripping lips is not going to get him in the boat.
No.
And one of the things, too, I mean, we lost some fish coming up to the boat. And you're right. I think, fishing the Senkos, I recall, and when you feel that dunk, he was letting the rod down, taking all the slack out of the line.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably count to 30 seconds and he would set the hook.
Yeah, and then he'd yank it up.
Yeah, because there's no mistaking. I mean, there's that's the other thing. He had some great equipment, some great rods and reels and you'd have to, if you had a gun to my head, I couldn't tell you the brand, but I can tell you that they were nice rods and reels for sure.
I wish I would have taken a picture of that. They were selling them there at the marina at the bait store there.
They were about $300.
They were expensive
for the setup,
but they were worth every dime.
Yeah, and he did say, the best time of the year there was from October to December, January.
Yeah, spawning season.
Yeah, for us it's a little bit different in Florida. I know that for other people, the bass, from what I've been reading, is spawned later in the year. Our spawn is later in the year, but late, fourth quarter, October to January time frame, and that's what he told us. And I'm certainly going to spend some more time on the water there. I didn't realize it was so close. I mean, we actually had another good weekend trip. We just got back. We're a little late in recording these episodes, only because we wanted to bring on the guide and talk about this trip with him. And we failed to be able to. We've been unable to coordinate the time and schedule with him on this episode.
Well, the guy's busy.
The guy's busy, man. He's a hell of a guide. We'll give him a little plug. So if you want to check him out, tell him we sent you. His website is jjbassfishing.com. He's a great guide. Jose Betancourt, give you a shout out. We had a great time. Yeah. So anyway, I think we can wrap this episode up. Rich, I don't know if you have anything else to say, but I think that takeaway with setting the hook is huge. We get excited when the fish are on there. Take your time, set that hook, well, so you don't lose the fish. That fish is, I've realized that they got a big mouth, and if you yank that thing too fast, quick hand on the draw, and you're trying to yank that bait out of the water, you're going to pull it out without the fish.
No, patience is absolute key. And even now, especially now in the summer for us, when we're not using crankbaits, we're using a lot more plastics. You got to let it sit there, man. You got to present it in a way. Now in this weather, the fish are moving a lot slower. They don't want to move quick. They're not chasing stuff down. Patience is key right now. Yeah,
and look, man, it's a learning lesson, man. We're putting time in the water. We've been fortunate enough to go out, last few weekends in a row, and it's been fun. And I think.
Poppy, I want to hug you.
Yeah, my son decided he wanted to break in here and give me a hug.
That's love right there, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, man. Well, it probably wants to play video games and taken away from him having fun.
You just swiped your wallet.
And my cell phone. Anyway, so I think, this about wraps it up. I'm looking to put some more time out on the water, get some more experience out there, and, that's really what it's about, man. Man, hell, when did we get this boat? How long has it been?
4 months, maybe.
4 months.
4 or 5 months.
So we put some time out there, and it's been a learning process for sure. Definitely going to hit Lake Okeechobee more. I wanted to talk about this because Lake Okeechobee was a great time for us.
Well, this is the idea behind the show. So every time that we go out there, we learn something different. We're going to bring it to you. We're gonna bring you the information, what it is that we saw, what we learned. You hopefully take that with you the next time you go out.
Yeah, man. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. Go out to Facebook, join our Facebook group, the Bass Fishing Dads. Follow us on Instagram at Bass Fishing Dads. Follow us on Twitter. Join the group. Leave a comment. Start participating. Let us know if there's some things you want us to talk about. And if you know someone that would make a good guest on our show, shoot us a message. Let us know.
Sounds good.
All right, Rich, let's get out of here.
All right, see you.
See you.
Oh, hey man, how you doing? Wow, you made it through all the way to the end. That's awesome. I didn't think anyone even listened to the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Stick around, we're going to have a few more coming up. Catch you next time.